Book review: Glow of the Everflame, The Kindred's Curse Saga, Book 2 by Penn Cole. Penn Cole's Glow of the Everflame is blazing continuation of the Kindred's Curse Saga, building on the solid foundation laid in Book 1 while pushing deeper into the mythic heart of its dark fantasy world with its rich character work, escalating stakes, and haunting thematic resonance. Book 2 cements Cole's status as formidable voice in fantasy fiction. Plot summary in Glow, the Everflame, the second installment of the Kindred's Curse Saga. Penn Cole returns to worlds scarred by ancient magic and unraveling loyalties. Picking up in the aftermath of the first book's revelations, the story plunges deeper into the cursed legacy of the Kindred, bloodbound group of warriors haunted by their connection to the powerful, unpredictable Everflame. Cale, once loyal soldier, now questions everything he thought he knew about purpose. The Everflame, once viewed as sacred force, is beginning to reveal darker, more manipulative nature. As Cale's connection to the flame intensifies, he is plagued by visions and growing fear that the magic they rely on might be consuming more than just their enemies. It might be reshaping their very souls. Leora, his fellow kindred and perhaps the most emotionally tormented of the group, embarks on her own path driven by a need to make sense of her trauma and uncover the truth behind the curse. Her quest takes her into forbidden territories and leads to a chilling discovery. The Everflame's origins may not be divine, but the remnants of a devastating ancient war. Leora's arc is one of transformation as she becomes increasingly willing to forbidden magic to protect the kindred, even if it means sacrificing her own humanity. Meanwhile, tensions rise among the kindred themselves. Born Ever the Pragmatist begins forging questionable alliances that threaten the group's already fragile unity. As trust begins to fracture, old betrayals resurface, and each member of the kindred must decide where their loyalties truly lie. The internal discord mirrors the external chaos. The kingdoms beyond are beginning to stir, and rumors of the kindred's curse spreading are no longer whispers. They are threats. The world building expands dramatically. In the sequel, Cole introduces readers to eerie ruins steeped in forgotten history, sentient landscapes twisted by ancient spells, and cryptic orders who seek to either destroy or control the Everflame. Magic becomes just tool or curse, but character in its own right. Seductive, dangerous, and rooted in memory, the plot builds toward devastating revelation. The Everflame is not merely a source of power, but a prison of sorts, containing something or someone far more dangerous than the kindred ever imagined. This knowledge forces the group into an impossible choice: sever their bond with the Everflame and risk annihilation, or embrace its darkness and lose themselves entirely. As the story races toward its emotionally charged conclusion, Cole deftly intertwines action with introspection, horror with beauty. Glow of the Everflame just advanced the saga. It deepens it, forcing its characters to confront the cost of survival and the weight of inherited power. By the final pages, nothing is the same, and the stage is set for an even more explosive reckoning in the next book. Plot development: a delicate balance between action and revelation. Glow of the Everflame picks up not long after the events of the first installment, plunging readers back into a world in flux haunted by the consequences of power misused and bonds broken. From the opening chapter, the plot moves with a deliberate intensity, swift enough to maintain tension but slow enough to allow emotional and thematic weight to land, rather than rehashing familiar conflicts. Cole uses the sequel to deepen the mystery surrounding the Everflame and expand the overarching conflict. The central narrative arc, centered on the kindred's evolving curse and the price of wielding power, splinters into intertwining subplots that explore the characters' internal and external battles. There is pervasive sense of dread and inevitability that hovers over each development, made all the more chilling by Cole's careful pacing and strategic reveals. The novel balances intimate character-driven scenes with more cinematic set pieces, including eerie forays into forbidden lands, confrontations with ancient magic, and a final sequence that redefines the stakes for the rest of the series. Cole resists the temptation to resolve too much too soon, opting instead for an ending that is both devastating and propulsive, hooking readers into the next chapter of the saga without relying on cheap cliffhangers. Character evolution through pain, loyalty, and betrayal. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of Glow of the Everflame is its commitment to character complexity. Where Book 1 introduced us to the flawed, often tormented members of the kindred, Book 2 forces them to reckon with their past, their power, and one another. Cale, the nominal protagonist, is increasingly torn between his duty to the Kindred and his growing distrust of the Everflame's influence. This arc is one of disillusionment and reluctant leadership. He evolves from soldier of circumstance into something much more dangerous, man who dares to question the origin of his power. Cole writes Cale with aching vulnerability, particularly in scenes where he confronts the ghost of his younger self and the memory of he's lost. Leora, arguably the emotional heart of the novel, is given even more narrative weight here. Her journey, laden with grief, guilt, and the slow burn of rage, feels like the novel's dark mirror to Cale's. If Cale is trying to break the curse from the outside, Leora is pulling it deeper into her soul, harnessing it in ways that blur the line between justice and vengeance. Cole allows her evolution to unfold with brutal grace, leading to choice that will haunt readers long after the last page. Supporting characters like Thorn, Meles, and Yurvin are also more fully fleshed out, their loyalties tested and alliances shifting in unpredictable but believable ways. Thorn especially becomes more than just a foil. His motivations, though still ambiguous, are given greater depth as he reveals pieces of his own cursed legacy. Even minor characters are treated with care, their fates used to underscore the novel's central question. What does it mean to be bound? By power, by blood, by destiny. World building, lush liminal darkness. Cole's world building reaches new heights in Glow of the Everflame, where Book 1 laid the groundwork with atmospheric locations and broad mythological strokes. Book 2 dives into the strange, shifting geography of the cursed lands and the political fissures that threaten to tear the known world apart. The author demonstrates a keen sense for the interplay between setting and mood. Every location, be it sunless forest, crumbling sanctuary, or the uncanny realm surrounding the Everflame, feels both tactile and otherworldly. Cole's descriptive prose leans heavily on sensory detail, often using light, shadow, and silence as tools to evoke unease. The magical system, centered on the Everflame, and the burden it places on the Kindred, is expanded with new rules, relics, and risks. Rather than offering neat explanations, Cole allows myth to persist around the origins of the flame and the true nature of the curse. This decision reinforces the book's central tension. Knowledge is power, but it is also peril. Intriguingly, the world is not just physically dangerous, but spiritually corrosive. Cole hints at metaphysical dimensions to the Everflame's influence, raising questions about free will, memory, and the soul. These elements are explored with subtlety and restraint, never overwhelming the narrative, but always present in its shadows. Themes, power, identity, and the cost of memory. At its core, Glow of the Everflame is about power. Who wields it, who suffers under it, and who dares to resist it. But unlike many fantasy epics that reduce this to binary of good versus evil, Cole's approach is more nuanced. Power in this world is never pure. It corrupts, isolates, and seduces. Characters are not judged for wanting it, but for what they do with it, and what they are willing to sacrifice to keep it. Another key theme is identity, particularly in how it is shaped by trauma and memory. Many of the characters wrestle with who they were versus who they have become, and whether redemption is possible. The Kindred's curse is both literal and metaphorical. It binds them to the past, to each other, and to fate that may not be theirs to choose. This tension is most poignantly expressed in scenes where characters confront manifestations of their own guilt or witness alternate of their past rendered through eerie magical means. Finally, there's the question of legacy. Theme that looms larger in the sequel. The sins of the previous generation weigh heavily on the current one, and the characters are repeatedly forced to reckon with the consequences of decisions made long before they were born. In this way, the novel becomes not just personal story, but generational one, about how cycles of violence and fear can only be broken, painful truth and radical empathy. Writing style, lyrical, haunting, and precise. Cole's prose is standout element. Glow of the Everflame is beautifully written with lyrical sentences that rarely feel overwrought. The author balances elegance with urgency, especially in action scenes that unfold with cinematic clarity. Dialogue is equally strong, naturalistic yet elevated, capturing the emotional rhythms of people who are both warriors and survivors. There's poetic rhythm to Cole's writing that mirrors mythic tone. Repetition is used sparingly but effectively, especially in passages tied to the Everflame where the characters' internal mantras, flashbacks, dreams, and prophetic visions are interwoven seamlessly, giving the novel dreamlike texture without sacrificing coherence. Moreover, Cole is not afraid of silence or stillness. Some of the most powerful moments come not during battle or confrontation, but in quiet exchanges, lingering touches, and unsaid words. This restraint deepens the emotional impact and lends the book a meditative quality that is rare in high fantasy series continuity. A strong middle chapter that deepens rather than stalls. Second books in fantasy series often struggle with pacing or feel like bridges to a climax. Glow of the Everflame avoids this pitfall by deepening the conflict and developing characters in meaningful ways, while it undeniably sets the stage for a larger finale. It stands firmly on its own as a story of transformation, grief, and resistance. Returning readers will appreciate how Cole threads earlier events and lore into the new plotlines. Clues and foreshadowing from Book 1 pay off here in ways that feel organic, not contrived. At the same time, new questions emerge. Questions that reshape our understanding of the Kindred's curse and the nature of the Everflame itself. There's also a noticeable evolution in tone. While Book 1 was dark, this installment is darker still. Not in gratuitous, cynical way, but in a way that reflects the character's growing understanding of the world's cruelty and complexity. The hope that flickers here is hard-won and deeply earned. Final thoughts. A worthy sequel and a triumph of emotion and myth. Glow of the Everflame is a masterful continuation of a saga that deserves a place among the best of contemporary fantasy. It is a book about pain and power, about choosing love in a world built to break it, and about finding one's own light even when the flame seems cursed. Penn Cole has crafted not just compelling sequel, but deeply human story wrapped in myth and magic. For who crave emotionally resonant, character-driven fantasy with high stakes and poetic prose, Glow of the Everflame delivers in every way, burns, it haunts, and it leaves you wanting more. Not just because of what happens, but because of what it means. Rating 5/5.